at 9. I'm Amy Jones.
And I'm Javier Dudley.
All the information you need to be in the loop on campus can now be found in one convenient location, your smartphone. The Ultimate Loop Guide is part of the guidebook application, and it's a one-stop shop for information about news and events happening around campus.
So the role of the Ultimate Loop Guide is to give every student the knowledge of what's happening on their campus right in the palm of their hand. A student, if they want to know what's going on their campus, can either pull this up, click, see what's happening, or go to any of the screens or websites to make sure that they have the appropriate information and they know where to go.
To get the Ultimate Loop Guide on your phone, follow the guidebook link on our homepage at www.plu.edu.
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and the Women's Center is celebrating a little bit different this year. The World Health Organization reports that 1 in 3 women will be a victim of domestic violence in her lifetime. The Women's Center on campus is a resource for victims of any sort of sexual violence, but this year they're observing Domestic Violence Awareness Month by focusing on a different aspect of healthy relationships.
What we're trying to get across in Domestic Violence Awareness Month is that no relationship is perfect, but there are unfortunately too many relationships out there that are unsafe or abusive, that we as a community need to step in and say, I want you to be safe and I know how to get you some help. And part of that is preventing those relationships from happening in the first place, which is thinking about the relationships that you want and choosing relationships that are good for you. We're really shifting the focus to talk about healthy relationships. So we've done a pretty good job about educating students about what is unhealthy and what's concerning, either in our own relationships or our friends' relationships. But now we want to change the conversation slightly to talk about, well, how do we have healthy ones and ones that are safe and not abusive? So Safe It, our peer education team, debuted a healthy relationship workshop that we've done a number of times with orientation guides, with RAs, with different residence halls, which focuses on people defining what they want in relationships and how to approach relationships and enforce boundaries, the things that we usually never get taught, you know, in high school or in college or even among our role models for relationships.
That we are going to be having a fundraiser where we are going to be selling little ribbon cookies. And they're going to have little thank you notes attached to them, and people will be buying them for an individual who has modeled a healthy relationship for them or who has been a part of a healthy relationship with them.
The proceeds from the fundraiser will be donated to the YWCA of Pierce County and the Crystal Judson Family Justice Center. For more information or to find resources for you or a loved one in an unhealthy relationship, please visit www.plu.edu/Women's Center.
PLU's men's soccer team has remained undefeated since last season. The Mast Sports editor Sam Horn takes a look into what makes the team work.
The Pacific Lutheran University men's soccer team remains undefeated after 12 matches. After drawing 1-1 against Whitworth and winning 3-1 against Whitman during the past weekend, PLU has not lost a match since October 21st, 2012. PLU is ranked second in the Northwest Conference with 24 goals. Forward senior Derek Johnson leads the Lutes with 10 goals. On the other side of the ball, PLU's defense continues to be stingy. In 12 games, PLU has only allowed 6 goals. Defender Taylor Jackson, a senior, elaborates on how playing a physical brand of soccer equals success.
I mean, it's tough. You really have to know, you know it's going to be physical, you know you're going to get hit, but you can't let it get to you mentally is the biggest part. I mean, once it's in your head that you're going to get hit and you're kind of afraid to get hit, it makes it a lot harder to play. You just kind of have to be aggressive, know that you're going to get hit, and just give it back to them, really, is all that happens.
Senior Joe Rayburn, the Lutes' starting goalkeeper, has contributed to the Lutes' steadfast defense. Rayburn is allowing an average of 0.5 goals per match, which ranks 34th in the nation out of 408 Division III teams. Jackson has been pleased with Rayburn's efforts so far.
So Joe Rayburn's a great keeper. I mean, Joe always is using his voice, always directing you where you want to go, where your runners are, and I mean, I can always count on Joe to make a save. If something bad happens or if I make a mistake, I know that he's back there for me just in case that something goes wrong.
The Lutes are ranked 6th in the nation, but the team is not going to be distracted with that notion.
Well, we just had to refocus ourselves and get back to doing the things that we know that we should be doing to be successful.
The Lutes will put their unblemished record on the line when they square off against unbeaten Puget Sound on October 12th.
The next men's soccer game is this Saturday, October 12th, at the University of Puget Sound.
The new $100 bills will be showing up at banks this week. The Federal Reserve Board says the new currency will begin circulating Tuesday. New security features include a blue 3D security ribbon that makes it easier to authenticate and harder to counterfeit.
The United States Supreme Court is back in session today. A number of hot topics are on the docket: limits on campaign contributions, housing discrimination, and whether the president can fill key positions without Senate confirmation. Other important appeals may be added over issues like gun control, abortion, mobile phone privacy, and Obamacare. The last term saw the court strike down key provisions in the Voting Rights and Defense of Marriage Acts.
The competition is now closed for those of you looking on to try a pair of Google Glass. The company says it's received an overwhelming number of applicants to beta test the new technology. Zane Asher reports.
Okay, Jed, what's coming?
In the movie Minority Report, Tom Cruise's character uses cameras on his fingertips to help see crimes before they happen. Google Glass doesn't quite let you see the future, but the company says it does allow you to record the present.
Okay, Glass, take a picture.
With simple vocal commands, the specs are being touted as allowing wearers to take photos, send text messages, and record video, all hands-free.
This is sort of taking a smartphone, like an iPhone or an Android smartphone, and putting it on your body.
The glasses don't have any real lenses. They're essentially a headband with a display screen hooked up to Wi-Fi, allowing wearers to search the internet, see driving directions, and view language translations on the go.
Will people want to have this type of technology on their body at all times? If they do, it's a game changer.
I always take pictures, and so it's really convenient. It's right on my face, so that's awesome.
I think it's too much technology. I mean, it doesn't really let you enjoy the moment.
As Google refines the product, it's making the glass available to select beta testers. The testers will be winners chosen from a competition based on creative tweets. But winners will have to spend $1,500 to buy the device. That's more than the average laptop.
That's expensive.
Expenses aside, Google, a company known for internet search domination, is moving even further into the product market. Its Android operating system now dominates the smartphone market. It's introduced the driverless car, and now it's pushing into artificial intelligence. Google Glass coming soon to a face near you. Zane Asher, CNN, New York.
In the face of the government shutdown and showdown in Congress, Starbucks is launching a Pay It Forward campaign. Wednesday through Fridays, customers who buy a drink for a fellow patient will get a free tall brewed coffee. In a letter to employees, CEO Howard Schultz said the government shutdown and other factors have created a period of uncertainty in the U.S. He said it would be understandable if many workers and customers felt cynical, powerless, or disengaged. He said the Pay It Forward campaign is meant to help fellow citizens support one another in this challenging time.
The U.S. House voted unanimously Wednesday to restore death benefits to military families during the government shutdown. The benefits include a $100,000 payment and reimbursement for financial and burial expenses. The bill is expected to pass the Senate, but the legislative fix may not be necessary. A defense official tells CNN the private military charity group Fisher House Foundation has agreed to cover the expenses for families of the fallen. The government will reimburse the organization once the shutdown is over.
Disneyland and Walt Disney World Resort have changed their policies for visitors with disabilities. They will no longer allow these guests instant access to the rides. It comes after reports that people were abusing the system. But, as Elizabeth Cohen tells us, the change is creating problems for some families.
Oh no, I only have 5 pictures left.
For months, the Kilpatrick family has been excitedly planning a dream vacation for their daughter Kira. Back in June, they bought tickets to the happiest place on earth.
I'd like to give her a chance to remember Disneyland. It's a fun place.
But now they're worried it might not be fun at all. Starting today, Disneyland and Disney World will no longer allow visitors with disabilities instant access to rides. And that's a problem for Kira, who has a rare genetic disorder called PCDH19. that leads to seizures and autism.
I am nervous. This may not be much of a vacation for any of us.
Long waits between rides can be a disaster for kids with her condition. Disney is making the change after widespread reports of able-bodied people abusing the policy, including some wealthy park visitors who reportedly hired disabled people to pretend to be family members so they could skip lines. In a statement, Disney said, "We are modifying our current program so we can continue to serve the guests who truly need it and for whom it was intended."
Disney is just saying, you know, we'll accommodate you, talk to us when you get here, trust us. And I can't plan for that. I don't know how well it's going to end up working.
But the family says they're still worried Kira will get sick and they'll have to leave. They're still going to give it a try. They've already sunk $1,500 into non-refundable costs. They're hoping they'll see joy on Kira's face as she enjoys some rides.
According to Disney World's website, there are options for disabled guests who can't tolerate long wait times. Disney says it offers these guests and their groups a disability access service card. It allows the guests to schedule a return time at attractions that is comparable to the wait time they would have had if they waited in line.
A fraternity email is causing a stir in Georgia after the letter used the phrase rape bait. Stephen Gelblock reports one former pledge is defending the email.
The email went viral online Monday, and after our report, it reads as a how-to guide on how to talk to women at parties, get them drunk, dance sexually with them, then have intercourse. The email says, quote, "If anything ever fails, go get more alcohol."
It's really, as a whole, it's really not that bad.
Jake Baker got the email during Rush a few weeks ago. The freshman is no longer a Phi Tau pledge, but is defending his friends, saying in context, the email was just locker room humor.
There's a few pledges that aren't super good with girls, and it was basically just sort of getting on them, and it was just like a brotherly, like big brother, little brother kind of thing.
A joke.
It was a joke.
Baker says the kind of parties, dancing, and drinking portrayed in the letter does not happen here. But the email includes the advice of, quote, "no raping," and is signed "Enluring Rape Bait," followed by the name of the fraternity's social chair.
He's a college student, so I understand that he messed up, but yeah, it was kind of disturbing.
Other women on campus are more forgiving, calling it more silly than disturbing.
I think it's unfortunate that it was blown so out of proportion.
As a whole, I don't think you can read the entirety of it and really take it as something that was meant to be serious.
President Obama will nominate Janet Yellen to serve as the next chair of the Federal Reserve, a senior White House official said Tuesday. The announcement was made on Wednesday at 3:00 p.m. If Yellen is confirmed by the Senate, she will be the first woman to head the central bank in its 100-year history. She currently serves as Fed Vice Chair.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Next is PLU in Focus with Leah Traxel. This week, they'll take a look at the food expiration date system.
So here's the deal. I can show you a bunch of footage of third world countries with starving children and roofless shacks. But you've seen that all before. I can play on your emotions and explain to you why you have it so good and you owe it to the world to go out there and help others. But you already know that. The truth is, this is nothing new to you. But the world is still waiting for people like you. So what are you waiting for? Peace Corps. Life is calling. How far will you go?
This new phone is awesome. It has made my life so much easier. You know, I get kind of bored when I'm driving and I need to know what's going on. So now, with this huge screen, a keyboard, and a ton of apps, I can get a text and write back right away, no problem. It's like I barely even have to look at it.
Welcome back to News at 9. I'm Leah Traxo with PLU in Focus. 40% of the food produced in America goes to waste, according to a study from the Harvard Food Law and Policy Clinic. 9 out of 10 consumers in the U.S. throw away food once it passes the expiration date, even though most products are still safe and contain nutritious value. So how can Americans correctly interpret food expiration labels? And how can the retail locations on campus balance safety with reducing food waste? We interviewed Tom Harvey, the Retail Operations Manager at PLU, to find out.
A use-by date would be something that typically is a component, let's say. Milk, for example, going into a food product, you would want to use that by a particular date. Best by date, though, means often that the maximum flavor you'll experience from this if you use it within that time frame.
And how about the sell-by date?
That would anticipate that there would be a shelf life on the product, and then you would take it home and would have what we would consider a reasonable storage time at home. It's helpful to justify the price that they're charging to be sure that the product that you're getting has the best possible flavor. So best by date and use by date are usually pretty synonymous. One depends on the vernacular that the particular manufacturer wants to use. Part of employee training, every employee, regardless of position, is trained about product and product rotation. It's very important that products get rotated. The manufacturers realize that products do sell better when they're fresher, and again, it helps them to justify the price that they charge if the maximum freshness and flavor is always there every time. So regardless of position, inventory and stock rotations is part of employee training. We collaborate with local food banks, and we donate to local food banks. So if it's still safe to eat, so for example, if it's beyond the best by date, we want to be sure that the maximum flavor and freshness is there. But it's still good, it's still nutritious, and that's why we feel comfortable that we would donate it to a food bank. Our goal is really not to especially be wasteful. Our goal is at the last hour of the day, be able to sell that last product to the customers so we have no waste whatsoever. But if you do have waste, let's do it in a productive way. For example, some of the compost that we have goes to local farms to feed livestock, so it goes right back into the food chain.
Next, we'll hear from Erin McGinnis, the Director of Dining and Culinary Services. She explains how the labeling system works in PLU Food Services and describes how they hope to reduce unnecessary food waste on campus.
So I think we probably err on the side of caution with how we label them, but we're mostly dealing with fresh products when you think about our things. So all of the stuff that we create here at PLU, we take a lot of consideration into shelf life when we decide how many days we're going to give something. And I think when you think about students and our responsibility, we want to be ultra safe. So many of our things are fresh products, sandwiches and those kinds of things. So the lettuce might get a little wilty, the tomato might get a little wilty. So there's a quality issue for us, but then there's also the safety issue. Depending on what kind of product it is, we look to all sorts of resources, both in printed book and online, that talk to how many days something has once it's sort of been opened and prepared. So we use a lot of different sources to sort of cross-reference and decide how long something is good. For example, a lot of our sandwiches are made on Grand Central or Essential Bakery bread. Those breads, because they're really they're simple breads without preservatives, they will sort of turn faster than if we made our sandwiches on a sourdough coming from a bag at QFC, that kind of thing. Tomatoes and bread are two of the things that are short. And so like if we look at a sandwich, they have a shorter time than some of the other things might. Like turkey, you might be able to open some turkey and have it out for a little bit longer than you might have a tomato stay fresh or the bread stay okay. So we have to look at all of the ingredients and decide what we would determine would be the shelf life for them. For me, one of the initiatives that we talk about with our team yearly, and that for me, I feel like we still have room to grow and will always have room to grow. And I think where we have room to grow is really trying to figure out our recipes better and our computerized recipe system better and our customer base smarter to try to really tighten up. And we do a good job, but I want to do a great job at it. Tighten up what food we bring in, like as a raw product to make something, to the point where we're just exactly using what we bring in, you know. And it's hard because you don't know if 600 students are going to eat something one night and 800 the next, like use dinner for example. But ideally we would be tightening up what we're bringing in, what we're preparing, and what's left over, so that there is no compost waste and there is no trip to the shelter, and not to keep it from the shelter, but to use the university's resources to our best responsibility and not spend the money on food that we then are going to compost or send away. And also, I think from that core sustainability concept of only trying to use what you need and then leaving resources for everyone else. So I think our big goal with product waste, with pull dates, with all of those things, is to make sure that we are ordering as lean as we can and still providing the students with the experience that they want.
To read more about the recent study, please check out nrdc.org. I'm Leah Traxa with PLU in Focus. Up next is Beyond the Brochure with Natalie DeFord. She'll be sitting down with the Mooring Mast sports editor, Sam Horn.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Welcome back to News at 9. I'm Natalie DeFord, and I'm here with Sam Horn, the sports editor for the Mooring Mast. This week, he'll be giving us some predictions about the homecoming game this weekend. So Sam, when is the homecoming game this year?
The game is this Saturday at Sparks Stadium at 12:30.
Very nice. And who are the Lutes playing?
They're playing the Pioneers of Lewis and Clark, who actually come into the game with a 1-3 record. Their quarterback last week, in their first win of the season, he passed for about 500 yards and had 8 total scores, both in the air and on the ground. So the Lutes defense will certainly have to step up their game if they want to stop this electrifying quarterback.
Right, and that being said, do you have any predictions about the game?
I do, but before that, I need to go into the stats just a little bit here.
Okay.
So Lewis and Clark, their defense, as opposed to their offense, is one of the worst in the conference. They give up about 440 yards per game, which is quite a lot. Now, on the contrary, our offense, the Lutes offense, is electrifying. We are very, very good this year. Our offense is led by 2 wide receivers in Kyle Warner and Kellen Westering, both juniors, and they are accompanied by quarterback Dalton Ritchie. And so Kyle Warner is actually a returning All-American, so I believe that Kyle and Kellen will definitely burn the secondary of Lewis and Clark. So with that being said, I think PLU will pull out the victory 35-31.
All right, that's awesome. I hope so. And you've mentioned a few players and how they're doing. Would you say that those are the star players we should be watching this season?
Not necessarily. So Kyle Warner obviously is one of the key players. He averages about 92 yards receiving per game and already has 4 touchdowns through 4 games. So he's definitely one to watch. Another guy on offense is running back Nico Madison. He actually stepped in for starter Brandon James in the second game of the season. And Nico has just been on a roll as far as the running back position goes. He averages about 75 yards on the ground So he's definitely made up for James's absence. Now on defense, Dalton Darmody is a senior linebacker, and he's been lighting it up on the field. He already has 1 interception, 2 sacks, and even 1 defensive touchdown. So he's definitely one to watch for on the defense.
Very nice. So you've talked about how some players have changed from last year versus this year. How about the team? How are the Lutes doing this year compared to last year? So
this year, I think that the Lutes are off to a very good start. They're already off to a 3-1 start in 4 games. Obviously, that loss to Linfield, losing 29-0, was not the best, but I believe that they'll definitely be able to rebound from that loss. Last year, the Lutes kind of had a struggle starting. They lost their first game, and they were able to win their second game, but their offense just wasn't in a rhythm. But I believe that this year, that's not the case.
Good news for sure, and the football game this weekend, definitely a huge event I'm excited to go to. But what else is happening this weekend in the sports world?
In the sports world, there are 2 volleyball games happening this weekend, and they are both at 7 o'clock in Olson Gym. The first one is on Friday, and the second one is on Saturday, and I will be announcing both of those games.
That's awesome. Okay. And so a lot of fun events to go to this weekend. What
Certainly.
should fans do to support the teams?
You know, I think as far as football goes, I think fans are always more concerned about yelling and shouting if the team scores a touchdown. But I think in order to really help the Lutes and help them propel to a win, I think they need to yell every time they get a first down or a sack, or maybe like a 15-yard gain on the ground or in the air. They don't always have to be huge things to get the audience pumped up. So they can be small things, which will definitely go a very long way in supporting the team to a hopeful victory.
Yeah, for sure. And really being spirited is what it's all about. What would you like to see fans wearing to show their spirit? So
since our school colors are black and gold, I would love to see all of our fans wear those colors. So the University of Colorado, they always have a tradition at all of their home games. They black out the entire crowd, and that's a really cool look from a spectator view. Mm-hmm. And so I think if we were to deck out the entire crowd with black and gold, that would look amazing.
Yeah, for sure. That would be something really cool to be a part of. So obviously you love sports, and being the sports editor is something that takes up a lot of time. So how have you dealt with taking on such a huge time commitment? Sure. Well, actually, I was involved in football at the beginning of the season, but unfortunately I had to quit just because it was too much of a time commitment. So the first week of school, I did football, sports editing, and topped that all off with homework. So it just made for way too much to handle. So I knew that I had to quit football in order to really focus on my writing. And so it was really tough telling the entire team that I had to quit because I wanted to focus on writing. But I believe that they all support me, which is very nice. Yes, and you are an excellent writer to support.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very good at sports writing.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us about some of your experiences in sports writing?
Sure. So let's see. It all started back in high school. I was a junior, and I got really interested in the newspaper then, and so I just wanted to join the staff and see what it was all about. And so that first year was kind of an introductory period, and then my senior year came, and I became the online editor as well as the sports editor, and that took on a whole new meaning, and I just loved it from the start. And then after that, between the summer of my freshman and sophomore year in college, I was an intern at my local newspaper, the Enumclaw Courier Herald, and so I just covered a bunch of political events like council meetings and such. And then the summer between my sophomore and junior year, I was the sports writing intern for Tacoma News Tribune, which was an amazing experience.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. And you are very involved with writing in the Mast. How should students get a hold of you if they want to write for the Mast?
If they would want to write for the Mast, they need to email mast@plu.edu, or they can email me specifically at hornsb@plu.edu.
All right. Well, Sam, thank you so much for being here. It's been wonderful, and we're excited to see everyone at the game at 12:30 at Sparks Stadium. And that's all we have time for now, but we'll see you next Thursday at 9. Check us out anytime at mastmedia.plu.edu. For all the News at 9 crew, I'm Natalie DeFord. He's Sam Horn. Good night.